Good evening and welcome to my kitchen. Yes, I'm expressing with my hands. Do you like that? Okay, so what I'm going to do today is make a simple chicken curry. The reason for that is I've got a lot of friends who say to me, I like your curry, Shane, how do you make it? And I try to explain it to them and I thought, you know what, I'll just make a video. I'll make a video and show them how I do it. And that way it'll be nice and simple. So first of all, I've got a wok ready here. For making the food in, and then I've got my ingredients. So I've got some chicken, some garam masala, which is just turmeric, all sorts of stuff. Like what have I got? Cumin, paprika, a little bit of chili powder, a bit of nutmeg, a bit of ginger, a bit of sumac, all mixed in to your taste. Just do it however you want it. I usually have mostly turmeric, ginger, with a little bit of chili and a little bit of cumin. And all that other stuff is just to your taste. There's some chopped peppers. There's 3 chopped peppers, a large chopped onion, some rice, if you want rice with it, some tinned tomatoes. Now the idea of this is also, I'm going to put the camera back over here. The idea of this is also so that it's really easy. And there's no complicated ingredients. There's nothing expensive. I've got some cooking oil, which is just some cheap oil from Asda or whatever. I've got garlic. Sort of puree, garlic puree. It's not sort of, it is. It's garlic puree. You can use normal garlic. If you use fresh garlic, just crush it up. Don't chop it up. Some mustard, very cheap English mustard. Some coarse ground black pepper. Lemon juice, just cheap lemon juice in a bottle. 4 chopped chicken breasts. That's for the chicken curry. But you could do it with lamb if you wanted, if you prefer lamb. Salt, that's about everything. That's about it. So, a lot of people say, I can't get rice right. Rice is really difficult. So I do it in a way that you can't go wrong, which is really simple. I put on the heat on my hob, and I've got a tiny kitchen too. So if you've got a tiny kitchen and you don't like to, if you haven't got space, and you think, I don't like to cook because I've got this tiny kitchen and I can't really do anything. I've got the smallest kitchen you've ever seen in your life. But I'm quite happy. I can do quite complicated meals if I want to. So I've got my hob on there with the heat on to number 5. So if it's electric or gas, it's usually on about number 5. Just trying to make it really simple. In the water there in my pan, and then I just put a little tiny bit of oil. And then I just pour in my rice, which is in here, which I really should have prepared earlier because it's a bit awkward to get into. So I'm just going to cut that with some scissors, which is I'm going to regret later on because it's a resealing bag. And you only need, I usually pour it into the water until the rice starts to come to the surface. That will give you enough rice for 2 or 3 people. I'm cooking here for 3 people, say, because it's actually for me, but it's going to last me for a while. So the rice is in there with a little bit of oil and then a little bit of salt. Another thing I don't measure anything, I just do it to taste. So whack a bit of salt in there, you don't need too much. The equivalent of about 2 teaspoons, I would say. And then just stir it in, and that will be heating up while we're making all the rest of the curry. So you get your rice on first in the water with a little bit of salt. So the first thing that you want to start to do is a little bit of oil in the bottom of the wok. If you haven't got a wok, you can use a large frying pan. I use a wok because you can get loads of curry in there. So I usually cover the bottom of the wok in oil. Just move it all the way around and put the heat on to, again, I put it on about number 5 onto that one. You don't need it all the way up to the top heat because otherwise you're just going to overcook things and burn things. So the first thing I put in there is my large chopped onion. So that goes in there. And just let that permeate, get that into the oil. So what you want to do then is let that oil cook. Now, I just put the heat on there. That was a mistake. I made that mistake to show that it means that your timing can go off very easily. So what you really want, you want the hob already at heat. And if you're cooking with gas, you haven't got a problem. But if you're cooking with electric, you want it right up to the full temperature, straight as soon as you put the onion and the oil in there. So I've got to wait a couple of minutes now. So I'm just going to pause the video. Okay, that's been cooking for just a couple of minutes, and the onion has started to sort of brown a little bit. I've moved the camera so that you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. This is my first video, so I'm sure I'm going to make lots of schoolboy errors. So the onions start to brown a little bit. Now when that starts to happen, that's when you put in your 4 chopped chicken breasts. They go in like so. Now, there is an idea, some people say, oh, you need to wash chicken before you use it, raw chicken. Don't do that. Just use it as is. Obviously, you want to observe really good anti-cross-contamination practices in your kitchen. So you keep the chicken separate all times, you chop it on a different board, and you treat it as though you assume that it is contaminated with something. Because the chances are raw chicken is. So if that comes into contact with, say, my chopped peppers there, I could be in serious trouble with food poisoning. So after handling raw chicken, it's always good to just wash your hands and make sure everything that raw chicken is in the wash basin ready to be washed. So the next thing to cook then is the chicken. So the chicken, and mix that in with the chopped onions. Now it doesn't take long for raw chicken in a warm wok to start to cook, but it does take a while for it to cook through. It takes about 15 minutes for it to cook through. But you don't need it to be cooking through to continue with what you're doing. So that's nicely mixed in with my onions, and you want the onions to start to mix in with the chicken because you want the flavour of the onion to get in there. So the next thing I add is my 3 chopped peppers. There you go, all in. Yum yum yum. Peppers is something that not everybody puts into curries. I like the texture, the flavour, the colour. It just adds something. There's a curry called the jalfrezi, which has got peppers in it. This curry that I'm making isn't a particular, it hasn't got a name, it's just my curry. Just the one that I like to make. It's very tasty and it's quite healthy. There's mostly just, good ingredients in there, fresh ingredients. It's quite healthy. As you can see, I only put that little layer of oil in there. You don't need a lot of oil. You don't need to put butter in it. If you want to, you can put a wad of butter in now, because a wad of butter will add all sorts of loveliness to it. I don't, because it's just that little bit of fat that I don't need to add. There's fat in the chicken, and it'll cook and it'll start to turn into liquid to a certain extent. So you don't, once you've got the oil in there, you don't need to add lots of other, you don't need to add more oil, you don't need to add water, you don't need to add anything really, liquid wise. So that's all mixed in. You want that all mixed in while it's just starting to cook. I'm using a wooden spatula for that. Okay, so what I'll do then is I'll add a sprinkle of salt. Don't need a lot. You can also then add an equal sprinkle of sugar if you want a sweeter curry. I don't add sugar because that wouldn't be good for my diabetes. You don't need a lot of salt. Okay, and I will also then add a generous amount of black pepper. Quite a generous amount of black pepper. Because you want that in all the chicken. I can smell that already. I smell the pepper, I can smell the onion, the chicken, all starting to cook together with the pepper and the salt. It's lovely. So just keep that cooking. it's going to need to cook for quite a while. Now, simple, nice simple puree. Now this puree is garlic puree. As I say, you can use fresh garlic. It's better to use fresh garlic. But for simple cooking, and this is what this is about, simple cooking for guys and girls who, you know, can't cook really. And I'm just showing you how easy it is to make a curry. So I just squirt in a good dollop of garlic puree. You can't really add too much. But there's about a tablespoon there, I guess. That can go back in the fridge. Mix that in. Now you can hear it starting to cook. And it's starting to smell really nice as well, as the chicken starts to cook more. Now those chunks of chicken as well, they're about 1 inch to 2 inches squared, usually about 1 inch squared. You want them quite chunky. You don't want them to completely just, you know, turn into threads while you're cooking them. They're big enough that they're not going to fall to pieces. They're going to remain as nice, good chunks of chicken. Those 4 portions will feed 3 people easily. So they'll do me for 3 days, basically. Which is great. So I'm just going to let that cook for a little while, and I'm going to pause the video again while that cooks for about 5 minutes or so. Okay, that's been cooking for about 5 minutes, and the chicken is just thinking about starting to brown. It hasn't browned yet, as you can see, maybe you can see. And in some parts it's still a little bit undercooked, but that's okay, because all we're doing is starting the cooking process. So at this point we need to add our mustard. You don't need a lot of this because you don't want it to be overpowering. So I put a teaspoonful in. You can also, here, I haven't got any, so I haven't put any in, add tomato puree. Now that will add flavour to your curry. Let's mix the mustard in with the chicken. Smelling good, smelling good. See, as you can see, a spoonful, 1 spoonful, is more than enough. Sorry, that'll teach me. I finished off a spoonful of the mustard. I love mustard, and I can eat it on its own, but sometimes it catches me off guard. So that caught me off guard. Right, so still cooking away. At this point, I also add lemon juice, a liberal amount of lemon juice. Lemon's great. Lemon, salt, mustard, garlic, they're all great flavour enhancers. They bring out flavours that are already there, and they can enhance quite subtle flavours. But you don't want to put so much in that the flavour of the lemon or the salt or the garlic overpowers the ingredients. So you just need a little bit. Smelling good, smelling good. Okay. Just take a look at my... I'll move it over there. Can't see it. No, you can't see it really. So I've got my rice cooking there. So the rice, now it's been about 10-15 minutes, I suppose. Whoops. So I want to see how it's getting on. I'll take a spoon and I'll just look at it, look at the rice. Now the rice is still nowhere near cooked. And the problem that people have with rice is that it sticks to the pan, it doesn't get nice and fluffy, the water evaporates suddenly very quickly. So as soon as you can see that the rice is starting to expand in the pan, you take it out and do something else with it, which I'm going to show you shortly. But at the moment the water's on the boil and it's cooking well. Now I'm going to turn the heat down now on the rice to 4, because it doesn't need to be boiling like that at this stage. It just needs to be, it'll still boil, but not so vigorously. That'll give me time to finish what I'm doing with the curry. So as you can see, there's a lot of juice now in the curry, just from the lemon, mustard, coming out of the chicken. The chicken's probably got some water retained in it. Most chicken that you buy now, there's water in it. If you can, get it from a butcher, because that's the best way of getting fillets of chicken. If not, supermarkets are fine, but you will find that there's water in the chicken. So that chicken's now browning. It's also absorbing all those flavours. So it's absorbing salt, it's absorbing pepper, onion, garlic, mustard, lemon, all soaking into that chicken while it's cooking. It's lovely. So there's just a few more ingredients now. So we've got our garam masala, which again is just a mixture. It's equivalent of about 2 tablespoons of powder, and you can use fresh stuff. You could use a fresh bit of ginger or whatever, but these powders are fine. Now most people like a sauce in their curry. If you like a sauce, then you'll want some of this stuff, which is full fat. It needs to be full fat Greek style yogurt. That's what I use. None of that half fat stuff. Full fat is best for you. And because it's slimming, it's not slimming, but what it is, it's filling, so you're less likely to get hungry after you've eaten it. That's what my doctor said to me anyway, because I'm diabetic. They say eat full fat everything, don't have any of this diet stuff or semi-skim stuff. Full fat's best for you because you will less likely to pick, less likely to snack, and snacks are always bad for you. Most snacks are full of sugar. And, you know, when you're hungry at work, you're so tempted so often by carbs to fill you up, and those carbs turn into sugar and they make you ill. They're not good for you if you're diabetic. Well, they're not good for you anyway, but if you're diabetic, it's worse. So this is actually not a bad meal for a diabetic, apart from the rice. I do make rice, but I tend not to. I don't usually do rice, but I thought I'd do it this time so I could show you how I do rice. Because I know a lot of people struggle with rice. So this chicken is now 2/3 cooked. Actually, it's just in the middle now. It'll be raw still, believe it or not, even after all this time. But that's fine because the outside is cooked. And at this point, while it's still cooking and absorbing flavours, I add my garam masalas. Now, if you want it spicier than normal, you could put some fresh chilies in there as well as your powder spice. Now, the fresh chilies will really liven it up. And you just chop them up really fine. Green chilies are the best, or red chilies are good, but I always use green chilies because they're nice and spicy. Now you can see there that that's starting to look like a curry now because it's the powdered spices are getting absorbed by the sauce that has been created by all of those other liquids, by the oil and the lemon and the water coming out of the chicken. So you don't need to put a lot of liquid and sauce to make a curry. You don't need gallons of stuff. Now you can put cream in at this stage, but again I don't, because that is quite sugary and fatty. But it does work really well. Nice bit of cream in there at this stage. And if you want it to be a bit milder, you can put turmeric and ginger in there instead of the extra chilies. There we go. That's looking good. I'll just let that cook in the spice for a while. So what I've got left now is my tin tomato. Now you can use fresh tomatoes, but tin tomatoes are actually just as good for you, if not better. They've proven it, I think, that tin tomatoes are okay. So don't feel bad about having tin tomatoes instead of fresh tomatoes. Well, you can chop up a few, like 6 fresh tomatoes, and throw them in, and they'll be lovely. I love fresh tomatoes. I used to always use fresh tomatoes, actually, but But tinned tomatoes, for the purpose of this video, and also, you know, for those of you who want it simple and cheap, 29p I think, or 19p for a supermarket tin of tomatoes. And you can probably get it cheaper than that. So I'm just going to open that up. I use chopped tomatoes as well because I'm lazy. Oops, a daisy, I messed that up. Get that out of there. There we are. So, just throw that in. That's a big part of your sauce there. And tomatoes have a lovely sweetness to them and flavour. And what's already in there will enhance the tomato. Now you can see now this is looking like a curry. See that? That's looking now like a curry that you'd expect to eat if you went out for a curry. Now there's another little ingredient that I'm not using now because I don't really feel I need it, but if you want to thicken your sauce a little bit, use some chicken gravy granules. Just put them in quite liberally, stir them in at this stage. You've got a lot of liquid in there now and it'll thicken the sauce right up. And chicken gravy granules usually haven't, you just get cheap ones. They have a nice, they add to the flavour. But not too much, they don't overpower or anything like that. They just get your sauce to be a little bit thicker if you like it like that. If you want, you know, if you're going to get some naan bread and dip it in, and a bit of chicken gravy granules will thicken up that sauce for you. Now, the Greek yogurt. Now you put this in to taste. I'm not going to put a lot in. I'm just going to put a little bit in, a couple of tablespoonfuls, maybe 3. Love that stuff. Now at this stage, if you want to, you can put some coconut in there. If you're doing a mild curry, you can put some almonds, ground almonds in there. There's all sorts you can do actually. All I'm going to do is add a little bit of extra turmeric. Some people will also put a bit of sugar in again at this stage, just a teaspoonful, but that's not necessary. Okay, just stir that in. You see it changing colour to a nice colour. And another ingredient that you could throw in here is spinach. You could chop up a load of spinach and throw that in. I'm not going to do that at this stage, although I've got some in the fridge actually. But I'm just going to make this a nice simple chicken curry. Now what you'll notice is this is completely from scratch. It's not using any jars, not using any curry powder or any of that stuff, because you know people who say they can't cook, well I use a jar, or I use a curry powder to make my curry, and it always tastes a bit odd. It doesn't taste right. It doesn't really taste that nice. Now this will taste lovely. I'm just going to taste a bit of the sauce. It's always important that you taste whatever you're. Oh wow. Oh, that's delicious. Absolutely delicious. And at this stage, you can still taste all of the ingredients, you know. They're still quite fresh in there. Beautiful. So that's done. That's it. Curry done. The only thing left to do is put the lid on and let it simmer at number 1. Now I'm going to find the lid in my cupboard somewhere. There we are. So I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to swap with the rice. I'm going to turn them both down to number 1. And now I'm going to do my rice. I'm going to show you what I do with my rice, basically. So that is now starting to really absorb the water. Now at this stage, it's when you might have problems with it sticking to the pan and getting into a consistency that you don't want to use. It's not quite fluffy yet, but it is starting to absorb the water. Okay, so what I do, I put it in a plastic bowl. Just let the okay. Give it a little stir. It's obviously not on the heat here, it's just on the side. Don't put a plastic bowl on the heat or you'll have a problem. So what I do then, I'm just going to change the camera around. Take the plastic bowl and I put it in my microwave. So you see, my kitchen is tiny, see? But that's okay. Close the microwave and turn it onto full heat and set it for 6 minutes. 6 minutes. Okay. Now that's going to be hot when it comes out. Just warning you of that. So my curry is simmering. When it comes out, when it's finished, by the time the rice is finished, that curry will be ready. You just let everything cool down now, turn it all down to 1, so you've got this one on 1 and the back one on 1. So the curry is just simmering, eventually it will go down to 1. It takes a little while for the heat to go down. If you're using gas it'll be instant, but with electric you sort of have to take into account the fact that the temperature isn't going to be instant. So you just let it go down to 1. Let the curry simmer and let the rice cook until it's nice and fluffy. And then we take the rice out and we can eat it with the curry. If you want to do egg fried rice, that's really easy. You can just get a large frying pan, put some butter in the bottom of the large frying pan, empty the rice into the frying pan, and just crack 2 or 3 eggs and just use a whisk or something like that, or a fork. I use a whisk actually, just to turn the eggs into the rice, and you'll get a nice. You can add chives to the rice when it comes out, all sorts of stuff. Chop some mushrooms and fry some mushrooms and add that. But I'm just doing plain rice for today, and that's it. That's a perfect chicken curry. I hope this has been helpful for people who struggle in the kitchen. If there's anything that you'd like me to do again, leave a comment. And a simple meal that you're struggling with, that you'd like help with, just give me a shout and I'll do it in my little kitchen. And we'll do it cheap, we'll do it simple, with simple ingredients that you can buy from supermarkets. Nothing posh, nothing fancy. You don't have to have a herb garden or anything like that. You don't need to know about cooking. You don't need to have fancy utensils, just the basics. And you can make really nice, tasty, cheap, healthy meals. And you can have people around, you can have dinner parties, all that sort of thing. It doesn't have to be, it's not difficult, it really isn't. You don't have to measure stuff, you just do it to taste. All these meals that I'm going to do are going to be just without measuring things, they're just going to be really simple. And I'm going to do, I think next time I'm going to do macaroni cheese, because I know a lot of people like that. A lot of people struggle with making sauce, so I'm going to show you how to do a perfect cheese sauce without any cooking ability whatsoever, and make a really nice macaroni cheese. Okay, laters.